Welcome back to Kings of the North. Doug Lesmerises and Bill Landis, joined by a very special guest, your friend and mine, Adam Ritternberg of ESPN and ESPN.com, will open the show with us as we dive straight into the big matchup of the weekend, Alabama at Wisconsin. Bill and I will have our big game breakdown and our picks later in the show. Also on this show, Trebor Pena. 5 touchdowns this year for Syracuse as a great slot receiver. We have an interview with him. He will join us. We will have a tailgate report. It's a little late. Took me a little while to get it together, but it is me interviewing West Virginia fans in the parking lot in Morgantown. And if you have never been to a West Virginia game, I think you will enjoy it. It will be a little peek. And then at the end of the show, we'll do Whatcha Watching, What You Thinking, What You Eating. But off the top, Adam Ritternberg, first of all, thanks for joining us here on KOTN.
Oh, great to be with you guys. Week 3, we're trying to find some good matchups in this slate, which isn't great, but that oftentimes means it'll be one of the more entertaining weekends of the season.
So we do want to get into Northern Illinois' big win over Notre Dame, because you did a very nice Northern Illinois story. Immediately off of that, you're a former Northern Illinois college football beat writer. Is that correct?
That's correct. It was my first job out of college. I covered one of their most memorable teams ever, one of the weirdest teams in college football history, which was 2003, where they beat Maryland, Iowa State, and Alabama on the road, and yet did not make a bowl game because they lost 2 games in their conference. So different times. There was a charismatic wide receiver on that Husky team named Peter. I think it's Peter John, or maybe Philip John Fleck. PJ Fleck is what we know him as now, head coach in Minnesota. So I got to know him as a player in his final year as a Husky. Michael the Burner Turner on that team. So I covered them for a few years, but none more memorable than 2003.
Landis, that sounds like a foundational moment in Kings of the North history. Northern Illinois beating Alabama. Holy moly.
I want to know what a young PJ Fleck was like.
He was what you'd think he is. He would, back then, obviously there was no social media, but I remember him after a practice, doing a dance for their in-house camera, crew that was doing something. And, it was obviously fun to talk to. It was a really good player. I think he had a touchdown catch in that season opening win against Maryland. Maryland was top 20, and Northern Illinois beat them in overtime. So obviously good player, went on to the NFL for a little bit. But yeah, he was what you'd imagine a 21 or 22-year-old PJ Fleck would be.
Wow. I can see, Bill, this makes me think now maybe Dragan Kesich will be the head coach of Minnesota one day, right? Guy with a little juice, right? What the heck? We like guys with juice. Yeah, that's possible. All right, so let's dive in first. Yeah, well, now, he tried his very best. They should have put him more in the middle of the field. They put him on the left hash mark in week 2, and he drilled a 55-yarder. Why was he on the right hash mark? I get defensive because he was on the show. I apologize. All right, let's dive into an Alabama-Wisconsin discussion. This is not yet like the X's and O's breakdown, but I was thinking about Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. This is their first real test, even though USF almost beat them last week. I'm not gonna belabor the point that South Florida almost beat Alabama, but I will mention it 10 to 12 times on this show. I was thinking about Kalen DeBoer, Adam, and I was trying to think of him more along the lines of Ryan Day replacing Urban Meyer, Lincoln Riley replacing Bob Stoops, that you are coming in for a legend, but the program has not dropped off. You're at a very high level, and the only difference is he's not internal. But he's an offensive guru who people think is good. And I certainly, when the hire was made, and I think I still do, just have questions about culture fit and those kind of things. But do you have questions about Kalen DeBoer at Alabama? And has anything in the first 2 weeks affected your view of that?
No, I thought it was going to be a bit disjointed. There's just so many new people that have influence in that program. It's a new way of operating, and oftentimes that leads to some mistakes, and certainly if that happens again this weekend, maybe that game will kind of get interesting. I'm a huge fan of Kalen's. I've known him since he was the Eastern Michigan offensive coordinator. He's one of those coaches that you meet early in his career, at least in the FBS, and now you're looking at him. Wow, played for a national championship last year. Replaces Nick Saban, and I really thought it was significant that he was someone who was outside of the tree, that he was going to bring in a really different personality and approach and style. And again, when that happens, especially in a sport that doesn't have a preseason, that the rosters are changing, in some cases right up until the start of preseason camp, you're going to have some bumps. And I think they certainly went through that last week against South Florida before that big fourth quarter. And it could happen again this week as they go on the road to, a Wisconsin team that, and we'll talk about the Badgers, I don't think is a great team, but it's still a tough place to play. And they're a team that has enough talent to make it interesting. So, I did not expect this to be dominance from the get-go with the Tide.
Adam, has there been enough? I don't know. It's only 2 weeks, right? So I hesitate to even call it much of anything. But just the fact that they're still Alabama is maybe working through some stuff offensively. And I don't know how much this was discussed. Maybe it wasn't discussed enough that Kalen DeBoer is doing this without Ryan Grubb, who has kind of been his right-hand man through a lot of his rise through the coaching ranks, and obviously a big part of Washington's success last year. And Ryan Grubb decided to go to the NFL. He was with the Seattle Seahawks now. Nick Sheridan is the offensive coordinator at Alabama under Kalen DeBoer. It's Kalen DeBoer's offense. I know he's an offensive-leaning guy, but the fact that he's trying to do it without Ryan Grubb, does that invite just any more kind of speed bumps you think as Kalen DeBoer tries to get the thing rolling there in Tuscaloosa?
Right. Yeah. Obviously, he'd been with Ryan for a while. Was at Fresno State with him, and then Ryan ended up staying at Fresno State, and then came with Kalen to Washington. And Scott Huff's another key part of this. The offensive line coach for the Joe Moore Award-winning Washington offensive line last year also went to the Seahawks, and so that's a disruption. Especially with the O-line, being a group that isn't fully healthy right now. Chris Kapilovich, who they brought in, kind of late to the staff as a veteran O-line coach, who's done a nice job, has some Big Ten ties from his time at Michigan State. But Nick Sheridan has been on the staff, and being out there last year in Seattle in the spring, there was a lot of internal confidence about Nick Sheridan of being a future head coach, of being a future play caller. And, a year later, he obviously is one now. But there's disruptions that can happen when there's that newness, not having the familiarity of Ryan. But I just know that they have had a lot of faith in Nick for a while to be in this role. And it would have been really damaging to lose both Ryan and Nick and try to run this offense at the level that they have been doing. But he's got a really good staff. Jamarcus Shepard's another guy who's done a tremendous job with the receivers. But it's going to just probably take a month or so before they really settle in. And it doesn't, seem like they're a team that is going to, be down for long or in this place for very long. I don't expect this to be a season-long issue.
Okay. I feel like I can see this coming. It feels like the vibes at Alabama right now. Aren't people talking about, hey, Kalen DeBoer told us to go celebrate a play after we did something good, and that it's a more relaxed vibe than Saban, which is, I don't know. I think Kim Jong-un might have been a more relaxed vibe after Nick Saban. Like what are we talking about? This is the guy who's gritting his teeth holding the national championship trophy because he's 18 hours behind on recruiting. So that's what made him great. So this is one of those things. It's the number one thing that happens in sports all the time. Players, coach, or tough guy. It's not like Bama was like, you know what? Let's just relax the vibe. They just went and got a great coach who had been very successful. But as the minute they lose, Adam, come on. The minute they lose, we are going to be talking about Bama losing the Saban edge. And right now, it's celebrated. But I think it might be a real thing. And to be fair, it's a very similar conversation to what has happened around Ohio State since Urban Meyer left. The Urban Meyer edge for good and bad. The Nick Saban edge for good and bad. And guess what? Ryan Day went undefeated in the regular season in 2019, his first year. But do you think, how much of a culture shift do you think it has been? And do you think that there will be any backlash to it the second something actually goes wrong down there?
No, there will be. But again, that's the reality. I mean, Saban was receiving that whenever he lost a game. And this is why I thought it was really smart for Alabama to hire someone who really didn't have connection to Nick Saban. Because everything that person would do, I mean, it's going to happen anyway with Kalen, but everything that person would do would be directly compared to Saban. Oh, well, you did it this way with Saban, or how did you see coach do it this way when you were an assistant for him? They brought in a true outsider with a different approach. And is that going to come under scrutiny if they lose and have these, do they lack the intensity? Sure. But that's just life in the SEC. And let's face it, odds are this won't work. I think it will. I think Kalen's a heck of a coach. I think a lot of teams would be fortunate to have him. But normally this situation doesn't pan out when you're replacing a coach that has this type of stature and this type of presence around the program. But yeah, I think this is a team that probably will stumble at some point this season. I don't think it'll be this week in Madison, but it should be at some point. The reaction will be what it will be, and then we'll see where they go from there. But I also think it was just a better approach than trying to, clone Nick Saban with a worse version. Other than Kirby Smart, none of those versions have really worked out to the level that we all thought that they could be. Look at the number of great coaches that worked under Nick Saban, we thought would be great head coaches, who are now assistants or analysts or out of the sport. Not a lot. And so I really thought this was a strong hire, not just because I know Kalen, but I thought whoever replaced Nick would have to be somebody who was dramatically different from him. Reaction will be what it is. That's how it is at Alabama. It's how it is at most programs in the SEC and Big Ten.
Adam, do you have any, I don't know if fear is the right word or not, but what's your view on Kalen DeBoer's ability to continue building the Alabama roster the same way that Nick Saban was building Alabama rosters?
Well, yeah, I think one potential issue there is that there was buzz that was even at Washington that they were not recruiting at an elite level, and that program was going to fall off from a talent standpoint after Michael Penix Jr. and all those players went on to the NFL. I think that those fears or critiques or whatever you want to call them followed Kalen to Tuscaloosa, especially with a staff that, for the most part, came with him from Washington, doesn't have those direct SEC ties, but they're recruiting at a really high level. And I think that should continue because of the way that it's set up. Courtney Morgan's an excellent GM, was at Michigan, was at Washington, is a guy that has a lot of connections around the sport. I think bringing in some of the defensive staff that he did, guys like Kane Womack, who is familiar with the SEC, was head coach at South Alabama. Mo Linguist, another former head coach at a Group of Five program, is a co-defensive coordinator. He coached at Mississippi State, at Texas A&M. I think it was A&M, not Mississippi State, but obviously has familiarity with that region. So I think they'll be fine personnel-wise. There's a lot of quarterbacks and receivers that are going to want to play for Kalen DeBoer. I mean, just look at what Ryan Williams is doing in year one as a true freshman. I expect Jalen Milroe to be better. And let's face it, this Alabama team, even though they were a play or two from making the national title game, maybe winning another national title last year, this was not one of their elite offenses in 2023. This is an offense that was stop and start and has the potential to get better. And I really think will get better, especially if their offensive line can get healthy and just be more kind of a together group. This is an offense that should rise, and that should help them personnel-wise going forward.
Alabama has four fumbles lost through two games. They had 5 fumbles lost all of last year. That is my tiny window into previously at Alabama. If you fumbled, you feared that the head coach would rip your arms off. And now, if you fumble, I'm not saying Kalen DeBoer is pro fumble, but maybe you fear it a tiny bit less. It is a tiny little thing. But if Alabama comes out in Madison, listen, man, it is wild there. Place going to shake. Place is going to shake. My plan, I hope, is to be in the student section during jump around. See if, because I'm just cool like that. And the kids, they want to see me. Kings of the North is getting huge. It would be such a great experience for the Wisconsin students to get to hang out with me. So I want to do that. But like, I'm curious, Adam, and it's going to be one of whatever. Maybe Alabama will steamroll them. But that to me was a tiny little thing from the USF game because it was 14-13 going in the fourth quarter. It was only that close because Alabama was giving the ball away. Is that am I crazy? Am I looking? Maybe I'm looking. I like Kalen DeBoer at Washington. I'm basically mad. I feel abandoned that he went to the South. But could that be a tiny little indication? I get it. Turnovers are luck sometimes, but I just thought that was weird. Three fumbles for a Saban team. I felt like you would have been the wrath of God down upon you.
No doubt, and it's something that can't continue. I mean, whether you're Nick Saban or Kalen DeBoer or somewhere in between, you can't have a team that puts the ball on the ground consistently and expects to win, even if you are generally the more talented team, which Alabama will be on Saturday and is in most of its matchups. So that's something to watch for early in that game. Can Wisconsin generate some takeaways? I just talked with defensive coordinator Mike Tressel actually earlier today, and he thinks it's coming. He says we have to do a better job of limiting explosive plays, but also I think we have the ability to generate more game-changing plays, whether it's from their secondary or whether it's from a linebacking core that they feel is deeper than it was last year, maybe even the defensive front. They have to do that. I don't see a path to beating Alabama if I think they need to be +2 in takeaways if you're Wisconsin to have an opportunity. But to your point, Doug, Alabama has at least given you that opportunity. This is a team that's still figuring itself out. Young players, new players in key spots, new coaches. Maybe there's a little bit less of a demanding presence on the sideline. I don't know if that contributes to fumbles or not, but it's happened. And maybe it's a trend. And if that's the case, that could open the door for Wisconsin.
All right, Bill. Let's shift to Luke. Bill, let's shift to Luke because I think we need to get to Wisconsin in a big game situation. Bill, you and I covered it in 2019. Very difficult spot, but Luke Fickell as a head coach of Cincinnati, coming off a really good year in 2018. They come into Ohio State in a year when I think they go 11-3 and they get their doors blown off, 42-0. And Luke Fickell didn't let players talk that week, was super tight. And post-game, I went to the Cincinnati post-game and I think it looked like Luke had seen a ghost and he knew that his team was tight and he didn't do it right. Luke Fickell has done a lot of winning since then. Luke Fickell has done a lot of growing as a head coach since then. Bill, this idea, Luke Fickell in a huge spot in year 2 in Wisconsin with a gigantic opportunity. Do you believe at the very least Luke Fickell will have the Badgers playing their best game, and that very likely still will not be enough? Or do you have any concerns about big game situation, Bama coming to town, year 2 Luke Fickell in Wisconsin?
Yeah, I don't know that I do. Because we had that conversation last year when Ohio State went to Madison, and I wondered whether or not Luke Fickell might react the same way he reacted in 2019. And I don't think that he did. I don't think Wisconsin was positioned to beat Ohio State last year. Kind of gave Ohio State a game last year. It was kind of uncomfortable for the Buckeyes up there in Madison. So I thought that was a sign of growth for Luke. I think that the way that he handled everything about going into the shoe in 2019 was wrong, and he knows that. And I think there are extenuating circumstances and emotions there that don't necessarily apply to this game. But I think big game is a big game, and I do think there was something learned there that will serve him better here. I'm assuming he's let Wisconsin players talk to the media this week. So if he's doing that, then I think that's a sign that maybe they won't be as uptight. And I think there's something too about being able to embrace that underdog mentality when you're in your own building, right? I think that probably helps a team play a little looser in a matchup like this. So no, I don't think I have very many fears about that anymore, Doug.
What do you think, Adam? Big spot for Wisconsin and Luke in this program.
Yeah, and again, let's be real clear. This is why Luke Fickell was hired. You had a program that was winning 9 or 10 games a year under Paul Chryst. You knew what to expect. There was a very clear identity. They recruited to it. They recruited to it under previous coaches. Why did they make this change? Because there was a 12-team playoff. Because there were big games that were coming up that Wisconsin had stopped winning for the most part under Chryst. This is Luke Fickell's moment, so to speak. Now, does he have to beat Alabama? Is this a must-win? No, but they have to be competitive. Otherwise, what are we doing here? And especially the way that Luke has changed the program in dramatic ways since he arrived. The biggest ones to me are the number of transfers that are on the roster and the offense that they play. And again, I think Phil Longo is a good coach, really good coach, and has obviously had success elsewhere. I can't find anyone in the Big Ten that thinks this is going to work. And they're not trolling. They just don't think it's going to work. So this is an opportunity against an opponent where you can't expect to win, 13-10. You have to score. You have to have big plays. You have to generate some mojo in that air raid. Otherwise, I don't see how they're going to be within a couple of touchdowns of Alabama. So this is kind of it for Luke Fickell. Maybe not in the, oh my God, if he loses, it's not going to work and the sky is falling. But these are the moments that he has to show why he was hired, and that his plan, which again is different from what Wisconsin's done in the past, is ultimately going to lead to success.
So I looked, this is Bama coming north, right? Bama has not come north for a game like this since playing at Penn State in 2011. So let's go to the weather app. Madison on Saturday. Watch out, Bama. 81. High of 81. Why aren't they playing this in November? High of 81? High of 81? It's not kings of the temperate climate. It's kings of the north. Why is it going to be 81? Couldn't we get a snowstorm in Wisconsin? Okay, it's not going to be a snowstorm. But Adam, it is Bama. Listen, they're used to going to Death Valley and they're used to going to Tennessee. And I don't know, is an Egg Bowl a stadium in the South? Is there a stadium called an Egg Bowl? Is an Egg Bowl a place or an event? Or is it both, like the Cotton Bowl
it's the concept.
and the Orange
it's
Bowl?
The concept.
It's a state of mind. Yeah.
I used to not eat eggs, man. I did not eat eggs. Man, I just mix up some onions and green peppers and salsa with my eggs now. It goes down so good. I have a new appreciation for Mississippi State and Ole Miss, thanks to salsa on my eggs. Do you think Bama could be thrown off at all, Adam? Camp Randall is a wild place. And they are coming north of the Mason-Dixon line. They might think they're in Canada. What if they land and all the Alabama players think they're in a foreign country? Will that throw them off? Will they have to go through customs? Do people in Wisconsin speak English? They don't know these things. They've never been there before. Is there any part of this, like, can there be a real home field advantage and can there be a real disadvantage, Adam, for Bama going on the road? And this is the new plan. They're doing it with West Virginia and Notre Dame and Ohio State in the years ahead. Awesome. Thank you, Alabama, for coming around on home and home scheduling with the North. But they haven't done it. What does that actually mean for the game? Maybe.
There's a possibility, guys. I've heard rumors that there's a number of Alabama players who are lactose intolerant but don't know it yet. So they're going to come up to Wisconsin. They're going to have this huge cheese plate on Friday night, and then all of a sudden the availability report comes out, and they're all out, and Wisconsin's got its chance. So, no, I mean, they've been to venues like this. But it is different. And, for pretty much anybody, it's going to be their first opportunity to play, at least player wise, at Camp Randall Stadium, which is a great venue. I do wonder, and I'm sure you guys have gotten into this a little bit, how much does the fact that the premier games of the North now, for the most part, are at noon Eastern or 11 Central versus 7, 8 at night. I mean, Doug, you and I remember that at Ohio State Wisconsin game, what was it, 2010?
Yeah.
Where Wisconsin at night, beats number 1 Ohio State. And, does that outcome, is it the same if that game kicks at 11 a.m. instead of 7 p.m.? I guess we'll never know. But I do feel that the home teams are disadvantaged to a degree by these early starts. So again, I challenge the Wisconsin students. You may see Doug there, you may see me there. Bill, I don't know if you're coming. Maybe we got to get you up there too. People are going to be out. It's going to be fun. Come to the game. Don't show up midway through the second quarter like you often do for 11 a.m. games. This is going to be an awesome environment. And I do think they're going to have that early crowd that shows up. But I also, wonder if this start time works against the Big Ten team in this case, or works against Penn State if they're hosting Ohio State or Michigan last week hosting Texas. That might actually favor the road team.
I like the idea of a bad cheese game. I hadn't considered that. It wasn't like in the 40s or something, like Wisconsin beat Ohio State because a bunch of Ohio State's players had dysentery from drinking bad water.
Cheese.
This could be.
Oh, for real?
This could be that. That was the bad water game. This is the bad cheese game.
Cheese poisoning.
Yeah.
And that's when Alabama will find out if Kalen DeBoer can in fact jump up, and get down. I'm Tom Rinaldi. So, we're gonna figure it out. All right. So it's gonna be a great game. You're definitely gonna be there, Adam. You're going.
I will. I'm gonna be there. Yeah,
Right.
of course.
I'm gonna stay at your house Friday night because it's outside the gouge zone for the hotels, and we can just drive up in the morning. Okay.
Sounds good.
I do want to get to Northern Illinois a little bit because we obviously talked about their great win at Notre Dame, and then you did reporting, and this is, I think, how we do this. Bill, I just want to double check. Bill, you and I, once upon a time, we were out reporting. We were like getting on the ground, going to places. But now when you have a show, you don't have to report anymore. You let other people report, then you have them on as guests. Is that our plan now?
Yeah, it's great. I love it, actually.
Okay.
It's great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Adam, Northern Illinois wins, and Adam is up at like 4:00 in the morning on Sunday going to Northern Illinois' campus. Is that what you did?
No, actually, I did go to campus, but I did all my reporting on Saturday night. I was fortunate enough to talk with Thomas Hammock and their quarterback, as well as athletic director Sean Frazier, kind of after my time in Iowa City. I was headed to my hotel and talked to those guys and wrote up a story. But then on my drive, if you're driving from Davenport, Iowa back to Chicago, you literally go right by DeKalb. So I wasn't going to go by DeKalb and not pull off and see what was going on. So pulled off and I covered them for, like I said earlier, went by some of the haunts in the stadium and all that just to see. No one was really out doing anything. It was a nice little morning on Sunday, but had to be in DeKalb and say I was there the day after the biggest win in team history. So congrats to the Huskies, Thomas Hammock, Mr. NIU. It was a great story. I mean, those are some of the stories that we love about college football.
So Bill and I have talked about this, and I do want to get Bill's opinion on it again. But Adam, North Carolina State on the schedule also for Northern Illinois in a couple weeks. Like, you stack 2 power conference wins and run the table. Like, there's would a 13-0 Northern Illinois with wins over Notre Dame and North Carolina State, would they be the Group of 5 playoff representative in your mind?
Oh, yeah, if they weren't, there's something wrong because Boise State admirably played Oregon but didn't win. Memphis has an interesting game this week at Florida State, but that's an 0-2 Florida State, so you might make them 0-3. Are you going to get enough credit for even winning that game? Whereas, Notre Dame on the road and then NC State, which again didn't play well at all last week, but to beat those 2 teams on the road, and then run the table or maybe they even lose a game in the MAC, I think they would be an interesting case study for the committee. Even if the committee values the Mountain West more and values the American more, look at what Northern Illinois went out and did, given its opportunity. Fascinating part about that too, Dave Doran, former Northern Illinois head coach, with ties to the Big Ten and Wisconsin. He's now the NC State coach, and NIU can go into Raleigh here in a couple of weeks. So that'll be a fascinating one.
I don't know that they have to be 13-0, right? To Adam's point, like if they already have the Notre Dame win under their belt, even if Northern Illinois reasonably loses on the road to an ACC team, but still wins the MAC and has something like 10 wins at the end of the year, like that to me is a pretty compelling case. No, like I understand the Mountain West is viewed more favorably, and maybe like Liberty will be undefeated or something like that. But what more can a G5 team do than go to South Bend and beat Notre Dame if it's also winning its conference? Like that to me feels like a pretty airtight case too.
No, I mean the other team to watch here, guys, I think, and they have a really big game on Friday, is UNLV. Now UNLV already beat Houston convincingly. Now Houston's Kansas. Not good. That's a bad team. But now they go to Kansas, which obviously Illinois just had a huge win against. I should have picked. We do this upset pick thing every week, Heather Dinich and I just didn't trust my Illinois love enough to go with the Illini, and I ended up picking up. I picked a team that was shut out at home last week, so that's my upset pick approach. But no, that was huge for them. It's still a really good Kansas team. UNLV goes in there and wins. Like they're an interesting a team that we have to look at as well. But man, Notre Dame, which could still win 10 games, and then NC State. That would be about as strong of a resume as I could remember for a MAC team. We all remember PJ Fleck when Western Michigan got to the Cotton Bowl. It would be that type of resume for a MAC team and NIU.
And UNLV also hosts Syracuse, eventual ACC champ Syracuse, in October. So that would be another opportunity for UNLV to impress people and perhaps hand Syracuse its only loss of the season. All right, Adam. So before we let you go, just vibes. Bill and I are going to make our picks for Wisconsin, Alabama later in the show after our X&O big game breakdown. It's like a 16.5-point spread. You sort of indicated that maybe you have some trepidation about Wisconsin's ability to hang around. So where officially, what's your like? You don't have, if you don't want to make a pick, you don't have to. But your official vibes for this game.
Yeah, listen, I hope it's close. I mean, I'm going to be there, and that would be incredible. I'm a little just concerned about the combination of, will Wisconsin have the firepower to match Alabama? Can they limit some of those big plays that Mike Tressel was telling me earlier they've had some struggles with? And can they control the line of scrimmage? I think it has to be a low possession game, at least +2 in takeaways, and they have to run the ball effectively. That is still Wisconsin, and they have to be able to do that on a somewhat consistent basis. I probably see it anywhere between 10 and 21 points. So right in that spread area that it's at right now. But, shoot, if they can take advantage of that first half Alabama, that sluggish Alabama, that mistake-prone Alabama, and then maybe Tyler Van Dyke gets hot. We know he's talented enough. Maybe this is the game where he shows, hey, I'm still an NFL prospect. I was a big-time transfer addition, and this Wisconsin offense is going to be different. Phil Longo, very confident guy. He always has been, but he believes this is an offense that's primed to break through. No better opportunity than on Saturday against the Tide.
Do you want me to bring my sword to Madison? Have you seen my sword?
Oh, no.
So you can meet it in person?
So is this for like USC, Michigan State? Or is this just us?
This is just us. This is just Kings of the North. This is just Kings of the North. What we do.
Oh, okay. But King's Sword. I got it.
Do you think it would inspire the Badgers? Do you think Luke would let me talk to the team pregame with my sword? I think I want to give pregame speeches. I don't want to coach a team,
right?
But I want to give pregame speeches, and I do think the sword would help. Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll just bring it and show you when I stay at your house. Tell your wife I'm going to show up on Friday in your house with a sword, and then we'll go from there.
I love it. We'll have a spot for it.
You can find his work at ESPN.com. He just absolutely knows what's up. So, Adam, we appreciate you being on Kings of the North, and we certainly want to have you back down the line, brother.
Absolutely, guys. Have a great show. Thanks for having me, and go Badgers.
Oh, look. Hey, there's the banner. There's a banner. All right. When we come back, we're going to go right into an interview with Trebor Pena. 5 touchdowns this year for the Syracuse Orange. And then after we talk to him, Bill and I will be back with our big game breakdown of Wisconsin and Alabama. We'll do all of that next on Kings of the North. Joined now on Kings of the North by Trebor Pena, the great slot receiver for the Syracuse Orange. Son of the North, right? From Jersey. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So why did you decide, why was Syracuse the place for you when you were deciding coming out of high school? Did you think about going anywhere warmer, or were you like, no, I'm all about the North?
I was just recruited by Syracuse early. And when I took my first visit, I just fell in love with it. I really didn't mind the cold because I grew up, like you said, in the North. So it really wasn't about the weather for me. It was about just the people and the area. And I fell in love with it when I first came here.
That's such a good answer. See, it's about the people, man. It's about the people. It's not about how warm it is in November. You guys, Trebor, are passing the ball as well as any team in the country right now. Do you know that you guys are tied for 4th in the nation in number of pass attempts so far with 86 passes? And last year, you were tied for 121st in the country with how many passes you threw. So you guys are really throwing the ball. Did you know that Jeff Nixon and this offense, did you know you guys were going to throw it this much coming into the year?
I didn't know what we were going to do, but I knew we were capable of it, having Kyle And, we have LeQuint too. So whether we pass the ball or run the ball, we were going to be efficient and score a lot of points.
Yeah, LeQuint still gets his, though, right? He's still okay. He's not mad about it, right, that you guys are chucking it around?
Nah, he's a selfless player. He just does his part and is happy that we're winning. And, he's going to make his play. So.
Okay. 12 catches for 166 yards for you so far. You have 5 touchdowns. Do you know how many people in the country have more touchdowns than you right now in major college football?
I'm not sure.
2 guys, man. You're tied for 3rd in the nation. So how's it feel? 5 touchdowns in 2 games. What's it like to be in the end zone that much?
I mean, it's good because, in other years, I haven't really scored as much as I wanted to. So, like last year, I didn't play it, and the year before that, I didn't score a touchdown, which is the first in my football career that I never scored a touchdown. So it was like difficult for me at that time, but it's just like it's good to see like all the hard work paying off. But all that really matters is us winning. So.
You're making up for lost time, man. 5 touchdowns so far is awesome. And I was watching your scores. They're in so many different ways. What makes you a good slot receiver? Because it feels like I'm watching some of these routes and you're getting leverage on defensive backs. You have great body control. You scored off a motion where the man coverage couldn't stay with you. You scored on like a slot fade. You had a tough contested catch in the end zone. What is it about your skill set that makes you a good slot receiver?
I just feel like I'm versatile as a player. I feel like I could play inside, outside, in the backfield, using motions. So just wherever they want to use me, I feel like I can go out there and do it.
The touchdown you scored on the motion, can you tell me, like, what's it like when you're going in motion? And I guess, are you taking a peek at the guy running with you in man? And do you have an idea sometimes of like, okay, this guy is like not keeping up with me. I have him. Did you know you had that guy before the snap on that touchdown in motion?
So we run that play a lot in practice, and we usually don't get that type of look. So they haven't really thrown that pass in practice often, and
really
it just showed up in the game. So it was good to see. But when I seen him running with me, like he wasn't going really fast, and I knew I had him beat. So it was just if Kyle threw the ball or not, and he did. So
really what's that like when you're a receiver? Because again, like sort of that slot fade, you got instant position on the guy. When you know you have a guy beat, what are you just like hoping that the quarterback sees you and sees the same thing that's happening? What's that like in the moment of thinking, all right, I did my job, I hope I get it now?
So on that play, we worked that a lot in practice too. It was cover 1. And usually when we have that slot fade and it's cover 1, Kyle knows like if to look my side or look at that slot fade first. So I seen it was cover 1, and I beat my man, and I just was expecting the ball right there and put it on me.
Man, you guys are doing it, man. It's almost like it's a lot like basketball, boxing a guy out sometimes, right? Because you are just getting leverage on a guy, you're getting positioning on a guy. How important is that? I know sometimes in the slot you'll have 2-way routes and trying to figure it out, but how good are you, do you think, of walling off a defender and giving yourself a chance to make a play?
Yeah, I mean, this game's all about leverage and seeing how the defender is playing you, and you got to attack his leverage and beat him however you can. So sometimes you got to do what you got to do just to make a play.
Okay. You are listed at 6 foot, like 185 or so. Oronde Gadsden is listed at 6'5", 236. You are a fascinating combination. You guys have combined for 25 catches, 367 yards, and 7 touchdowns so far. And you are like the 2 ends of the spectrum of like body types in this. You and Oronde have been there together for a long time. You both had injuries last year. What do you think you guys are like as a pair? And you have other guys too. You have Zeke Haynes, who came from Georgia. You guys are thrown all over the place. But you and Oronde especially, man, I love that combo. I don't know what a defense would do with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have somebody like Oronde on our team. You know, he's a mismatch wherever he lines up. So having someone that big and he can move that quick, and he has great hands, he's strong. it's just tough to cover him, and it's hard to cover everybody on the field. So
yeah,
if they're focused on OG and it spreads the ball out to other players, they're focused on me or Zed or Mari or Jackson, anybody, then OG is going to get the ball, and you know what happens when he gets the ball.
You mentioned the injury last year. What's it like when you're going through that? And did you get down? Did you ever think about leaving Syracuse? Did you wonder what was coming up next? You wind up having a coaching change. You know there's probably going to be a new quarterback in there. It felt like maybe it could have been a very sort of up in the air, difficult year for you when you're looking at maybe a bunch of changes and you weren't healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to stay patient and just keep doing my rehab and just doing everything right, trying to come back and play as fast as I can. But when Coach Fran came in, like, I knew I wanted to stay because I knew him in the past. And yeah, this is where I wanted to be.
Okay, so let's take me through that then. Fran Brown gets hired. What's your immediate reaction? What's your immediate impression? Do you remember the first time Fran Brown talked to the team and like what you thought when you heard like this guy's going to be our new head coach?
Well, I knew him in high school because when I was committed to Temple, that's when I met him. He was one of the coaches there. Okay. So we started we made a relationship early, and so I had decommitted from Temple and I committed here, and he ended up leaving Temple to go to Rutgers. So we just stayed in touch a little bit, and then when he got the coaching job here, he called me a couple of days after, and we just talked for a little bit, and yeah, it was cool to see it go for full circle.
Life's crazy, man, isn't it? Like, who would have thought? Like, you and Fran reunited. Like, this is wild. All right, Jeff Nixon as the offensive coordinator, a lot of NFL experience. What was your first impression of him? What did you think of, okay, this is first met Coach Nixon?
I honestly didn't know who he was at first, but getting to meet him and it was cool because he really knew what he was doing. And at first, learning the offense, it was really tough because it was so much stuff. It was so different from last year. Yeah. But slowly, like, we all started to process it and started to really understand it. And I love what he's doing and using all the different shifts and motions and getting people in the right spots.
Yep.
Using different players in different spots. Like, I love what he's doing, and he knows what he's doing.
And then your coaches say, we're maybe going to try to get this Kyle McCord guy, and then this quarterback drops into your world. What did you think when you heard about the idea of Kyle McCord, and what was your first impression of Kyle McCord?
I mean, I knew who he was watching Ohio State last year, and I knew he was a good player. I heard that Coach Fran was trying to get him, and I mean, I just wanted to see what happened in the portal, and then he committed here, and it took a little while for me to meet him, but once we started to talk in the locker room and get to know each other, I just realized, like, he's a cool person, he's a good leader, and he's like the one, like, he's the quarterback for our program.
This ACC race is wide open. You guys are coming off an awesome win against Georgia Tech. First of all, just like what are the vibes in the football building right now around this team with a 2-0 start, with you guys playing as well as you're playing? We know, I think there was like excitement around Fran Brown, but now you guys are putting it on the field. How's it feel in there, man? What's the team feeling like?
I mean, it's great to win 2 games to start the season, but we got to just focus on next week. The week after that, just go 1-0 every week. We're not trying to get overexcited or act like the job is done. It's not done yet. So we got to focus on winning, going 1-0 each week.
And then what are the vibes like with the fan base? What's it like in the dome right now? What's it like on campus right now? I just have to imagine there's a lot of juice around Syracuse football.
Yeah, I feel like this is the most excited the fans have been in a while. So it's good to see, like, at the quad walk and just in the dome, like, the energy is crazy, and I like, it's amazing to see all the community just supporting us and being able to give them experience that, like, is good.
Yeah. And like I said, listen, man, it's all about winning, right? Whatever it takes to win. If you win 3-2, it's a great win. But the way you guys are winning right now with this passing attack, with the multiple options, with the numbers and the touchdowns you guys are putting up, like, come on, man. This is what you dream about. Isn't this is what every receiver in the world would want to be part of. Sure, it's fun to be on a team where you're winning with, low scoring defensive games, but you've been waiting a long time and you dealt with a lot of stuff to get to this point. You're part of one of the best offenses in college football right now, Trebor.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, but we all knew what we were capable of going into this season. So
okay,
it's great
when did you get a sense? When did you was it like in spring? Was it more like in August? When did you get a sense of maybe we really could be good at throwing the ball?
Oh, right. I guess I would say in spring practices, but even in the winter when we were working out, like whether we would go and just work out at the field together, we get a sense of how we run routes, how we throw the ball, just how we started to build like the connection. So everybody was getting on the same page since January.
Okay. All right. He's Trebor Pena. He's on track for like 25 touchdowns this year. I hope you get there, man. Like, it is wild. You're scoring on the jet sweep. You're scoring in every different way. Again, you seem like the ideal slot receiver for this offense. So congratulations on what's happened so far, and best of luck to Syracuse the rest of the way.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thanks for joining us on KOTN.
Of course.
All right. Good guy. Landis, good player. Isn't he good? He's a really good slot. He's like burning people. And I'm not sure he's 6 feet tall. He's a little bit of a little guy, but like they have outside guys, they have a tight end, they have an inside guy. They have a real good running back, and obviously Kyle McCord's getting it done. Like, the Syracuse offense has a lot of pieces.
There are a lot of pieces. Yeah, and they've seem to be like landing on an identity too, which I think is being a little more of a downfield throwing team, which is pretty exciting to see when you have a big arm quarterback like Kyle McCord. Yeah.
All right, so thanks to Syracuse for that. They're off this week, and then they have some big ones ahead, but they also have a chance to really get out to a good start. All right, let's get to our big game breakdown, brought to you by, well, nobody yet, but eventually maybe it'll be brought to you by somebody. Wisconsin and Alabama. Again, this is Alabama starting off agreeing to schedule home and homes with northern teams. We're excited about it. 16-point spread at the moment. As we start this breakdown, Landis, we will go to the Wisconsin offense versus the Alabama defense. And I think the number one question here is, like, has Wisconsin somehow been slow playing this? Which is a thing that you say about an offense that hasn't looked very good. It's like, they haven't been trying. And it's like, okay, is that really what it is sometimes? Because Tyler Van Dyke, the transfer quarterback from Miami, 17 of 27 for 214 and 21 of 36 for 196 in their first two games. They've shown flashes. They just have to throw the ball more consistently. And they haven't done much down the field. He's 2 of 8 on passes of 20 yards or more so far this season. Do you think this is it? Or do you think there is much more there that Luke Fickell and Phil Longo have been hiding from Alabama?
I will say that if you were sandbagging, this is what it would look like. But I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing for Wisconsin, because I don't believe that they have been.
Okay.
I just think this is an offense that is still very much trying to find its way, and I'm not exactly sure what that way is. I'm not encouraged by Tyler Van Dyke having the lowest yards per attempt and lowest average depth of target in his career in his first 2 games at Wisconsin. I'm not encouraged by the lack of explosive plays. I guess the one thing, like, the offense has been fairly efficient. It's good on third down. It's been really bad in the red zone, and it has almost nothing in the way of explosive plays. But I think sometimes efficiency can be a precursor for explosion, right? If you're sort of like dialed in on the details to make sure you're churning out 3 and 4 yards at a time and getting first downs, but you haven't quite yet broken through to hit that big play to finish drives the way you need to, I suppose that could come.
Okay.
It needs to. Obviously, it needs to for Wisconsin to win this game. But that's the thing. It's like they move the ball fine. They just don't move it in explosive chunks enough, and aren't nearly good enough at finishing off drives. I think they're 5 for 10 in the red zone this year, scoring touchdowns.
So I do think so. Listen, Tyler Van Dyke it's a hard resume to evaluate. Let me throw out some games that he's played in his life at Miami. And for real, I think going into, was it into 23 or into 22? Maybe into 22. He was coming off of 2021 where he went nuts in the second half of the season. He was a real preseason Heisman candidate.
Yes.
2023, 24 of 39 for 321 against Louisville, 31 of 48 for 391 against North Carolina, 21 of 30 for 374 against Texas A&M. 2022, 42 of 57 for 496 yards against North Carolina, 29 of 46 for 351 against Virginia Tech. And these were the last 6 games he played once he took over as a starter. Passing yards at the end of 2021, last 6 games, 325, 426, 389, 316, 357, 381. So listen, they're chucking it around. And like 24 of 39, for instance, against Louisville last year is not super efficient, but the guy can chuck it around. So Wisconsin wants to chuck it around. I do think they have a couple, Bryson Green and Will Pauling, who would lead them in targets. Will Pauling's a real guy. They have a couple actual options. They have a 2-headed running back group led by Ches Malusi. Their offensive line, I think, is maybe good, but not great. And here's the thing. Bama has a couple really good safeties, including Keon Sabb, the transfer from Michigan. But their corners, they're playing Damani Jackson, who's a transfer from USC. They're playing Zabian Brown, who's a true freshman, 5-star freshman, but a true freshman, and Devontae Smith, who was committed to Ohio State once upon a time and has been like really waiting his turn there. But it's transfer, new guy who's kind of been around forever. This is not the peak of the Bama secondary, and as good as their safeties are, their best safety last year, Caleb Downs, is playing for Ohio State right now. I do think there's a chance that the Bama secondary would be open for business if somebody can do it.
Yeah.
And I think peak Tyler Van Dyke could do it. I just don't know what the chances are that we see. Let's have Bill take a moment to put on his skeptical face. What are the chances that we get peak Tyler Van Dyke on Saturday at noon?
I think we could. This is not a terrifying Alabama defense.
No.
The front's pretty good. I think that the defensive tackles will give you some problems for sure. There's definite talent on the edges and at linebacker, but they're not trotting Dallas Turner out there. They're not trotting Will Anderson out there. And I do think this secondary can and will get got by somebody. Okay. I just have a hard time seeing it being Wisconsin unless there's really just another level that it's going to tap into throwing the ball down the field. And Tyler Van Dyke at least has done that, right? It's not like if he does it on Saturday, will have come out of nowhere. There is some proof of concept there that he can lock in and have a really good game throwing the ball. So it's definitely possible. I maybe even worry less about his ability to do it and more about the receivers at Wisconsin being able to make Alabama pay for being a little suspect at corner, right? I like Will Pauling a lot. Will Pauling's also like the only guy they throw the ball to. Like his target share relative to the rest of the offense is pretty large. So I think they would need some other people to step up, whether that is Bryson Green or like the tight end Tucker Ashcraft or another receiver. I think someone or multiple someones need to get more involved in this passing attack. And if that happens and they're getting open and Tyler Van Dyke is pushing the ball down the field, which I actually think there were probably opportunities for both of Alabama's first 2 opponents to do that it just didn't take advantage of, then that's a recipe for Wisconsin to surprise some people, I think. So like there's a vulnerability there for sure. Just a matter of whether or not Wisconsin can exploit it.
18 targets for Will Pauling, 10 for Bryson Green, no more than 5 for anybody else. So they are like super leaning on those guys. If Wisconsin comes out and is super effective throwing the ball and hits some downfield shots in the first quarter, try to listen on the Fox broadcast and see if you can hear it, because I'm going to lean out the press box window and yell, "Sandbagging!" and see if it gets on the broadcast. Because sometimes they have the mic, right, that they want to pick up the crowd noise. If you hear, if Wisconsin's offense is throwing the ball effectively, listen, see if you can hear someone yelling sandbagging. But I do think the point about like Jahad Campbell's like a real dude at linebacker for Alabama. He's a problem.
Deontay Lawson's really good. Yeah.
You're comparing Bama against itself. Just as like, this is what you do with the greatest teams. They are their own standard. And particularly for Nick Saban being a secondary guy and losing Caleb Downs, like this is just not the typical Alabama secondary, I think, which creates opportunity. Again, if it's not Tyler Van Dyke, it'll be Carson Beck or somebody down the line, like somebody. I think it's going to make them pay. We'll see. We'll see if it can happen in this one. And then Wisconsin has to run ball. Ches Malusi, I think it's been okay coming back from injury last year. Cade Yakimelli is a guy who flashed last week as like a second back for them. So, but I think it's going to be about Van Dyke, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think so. I will like Tyree Walker started the opener at running back. Didn't play last week, was like a last minute kind of surprise omission, I guess, from the offense, which is why Yakimelli got so much work. But I think Walker should be back this week, so they should have 3 running backs that they feel pretty good about, and it'll be but I think it'll be a big offensive line. Can you handle what Alabama has up front, and then can Tyler Van Dyke really take his game up a couple of notches from where it's been the first 2 games?
Yeah, Ches Malusi 3.8 yards per carry so far. Like they need to get that up. Yakimelli just popped last week. He has 9 yards per carry, so he hit some big runs. Okay, other side of the ball. This is Wisconsin defense trying to slow down your Heisman pick, Jalen Milroe in Alabama. Does Wisconsin have a chance to do that?
I don't love the matchup, only because of and Adam touched on it kind of in the first segment. Mike Tressel talking about wanting to limit explosive plays. Like that is what Alabama is. This stat blew my mind. I want to know if it blows your mind. Alabama has scored 15 touchdowns in 2 games. The average yard gained on those touchdowns is almost 33 yards. 9 of their touchdowns have gone for at least 21 yards. 5 have gone for more than 30 yards. They have just eviscerated the defenses of Western Kentucky and South Florida, which granted probably aren't great defenses, with huge plays. And they haven't been really efficient. It's been a little boom or bust, I think, for Alabama's offense.
But we had a similar conversation about Oregon's offense so far, right? Oregon's been all about big plays, but it's not been efficient. And the Oregon conversation, I felt it's a little bit of like negative connotations of like, hey, they're not bing, bang, boom operating in an efficient manner. They're just hitting big stuff to their talented dudes. So when you say Alabama's hitting ridiculous big plays, are you saying it with a positive spin or a questionable spin?
Mostly positive because they're doing it run and pass, and the pass is like downfield shots. The pass isn't, let me throw a 2-yard screen and watch a guy run 80 yards. Jalen Milroe loves to throw the ball down the field. He's a devastating runner if he gets into the open field. So you have to account for him running. I think Justice Haynes is obviously a very good running back. Jam Miller is a good running back. Like they've got a 3-headed rushing attack that can be really devastating, and they have a young dude at receiver. It's been a couple of years, Williams, I think, since Alabama has had a real dude at receiver. Ryan Williams is the real deal. If Jeremiah Smith didn't exist, a lot of more people would be talking about Ryan Williams, who, by the way, is 17 years old. He reclassified. He should be a senior in high school. He's 17. He will play this entire season, 17 years old. And all he's done so far is put up 6 catches for 207 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he has touchdowns of 84, 55, and 43 yards. He's a problem. But Wisconsin's got guys in the secondary. Ricardo Hallman, Hunter Wohler.
Yep.
Like, I think maybe could hold up. I think Wisconsin might be able to make it not so easy for Alabama to hit some of the big passing plays it's hit so far this year.
So again, as we talked about, they turned the ball over and shot themselves in the foot, which is why they were only up by a point going into the fourth quarter against USF. But there was another play. Jalen Milroe, like on 3rd and 6, just wound up running backwards and taking a 15-yard sack. It happens sometimes to quarterbacks, but again, and it happens more often to young quarterbacks. But you see that play, and he's so exceptional when he hits. How much of that do you think is still in there? Because again, now this is on Mike Tressel and Luke Fickell trying to draw something up, but can they rattle Jalen Milroe, or is that just one of those things where sometimes something's not there and you get sacked?
I think when you play quarterback the way that he does, you're going to see stuff like that. There's just always, I think, far more scrambles to outweigh it. He got loose for like an 80-yard touchdown run that got called back on a holding penalty in that game too. And he had another long touchdown run. He has actually, I have it written down here. He has touchdown runs of 12 yards, 21 yards, 10 yards, and 5 yards so far this year. So he's been getting after it on the ground. I just think it's something you live with. Now, obviously, if he does that and he gives you the ball, like he fumbles the ball, that's a thing. Like I think you want to. I guess conventional wisdom is right. You don't blitz guys who can run like that, but maybe when he is like so willing to run around behind the line of scrimmage, maybe that's an opportunity to try to force him into some kind of mistake, whether that's an errant throw down the field or fumbling the ball when he gets hit. I would imagine maybe Wisconsin doesn't try to do that, just because if you're sent 8 guys and he gets by the one that's in his way, he's out the door, and it could be a really long touchdown. So there's a balance there. I am curious about what Wisconsin might be able to do up front against Alabama's offensive line, which has not been great so far this year, but is also dealing with some injuries. Like Caden Proctor hasn't played yet. He got hurt in warm-ups before the Western Kentucky game and hasn't played in either game. Like, he could play. They were really moving guys around against South Florida because Elijah Pritchett, their right tackle, also was not supposed to play. And then he had to play a little bit because the guy they had playing right tackle was so bad. So they were really shuffling stuff around. Tyler Booker, who's normally a left guard, was playing left tackle. So even if Alabama is healthy on the offensive line this week, it'll be the first game where they have their 5 guys out there. So if you do that on the road, I could see that as an opportunity for Wisconsin to maybe make a little hay early in the game as they try to figure some stuff out. But I just Jalen Milroe is just so hard to contain. I think you can do it. I think you can do it some, but I just kind of feel like eventually he's going to make too many plays, whether that's with his legs or throwing the ball down the field.
So I do think in the end, right, Wisconsin made this move, as Adam was talking about, right, that they want to be something else than what they were. So this is the game where they have to be that. Yeah. So they have to open up. They have to make at least a couple big plays, passing the ball against a young Alabama secondary. And then I think defensively, they have to force a couple turnovers. And that's taking chances. If you get Jalen Milroe is going to get you anyway. So you may as well take a couple risks and try to get him too, because you're not going to hold him down. So admit that you're going to give up a long touchdown pass or a long touchdown run or something, but then blitz enough, disguise things enough that you also force 2 or 3 turnovers. So if they don't do that, it has a chance to get away from them. If they come out and hand the ball to Ches Malusi and then just, try to be sound on 3rd and 5, they're going to get their doors blown off. But I think they have to let it rip, right? Let it rip, Wisconsin. And if Bama's you, then so be it. But take a chance to tell Bama to cram it. And again, if we were 2 years into this, we would be having a Bama can cram it Friday night or pregame tailgate brought to you by Kings of the North. And I would bring my sword and we would have some poison cheese and we would do all those things. We're just not at a place to do it quite yet.
Yeah.
But Wisconsin's got to make big plays, which again is contrary to Wisconsin, which is the whole point of what they're doing.
Yeah, like as Adam said, this is why you do it. And maybe it will. I think you really got to let it rip on offense. Like that's imperative in this game. And I think on defense, if Wisconsin has actually struggled to stop the run a little bit, which is concerning given who Wisconsin has played thus far. If they can find a way to slow Alabama down running the ball and make it more of a throw game, for as good as I think Jalen Milroe is, maybe you stand more of a chance to get some of those splash plays defensively if you make it more of a drop back game for Alabama. One thing there that I had not mentioned that I meant to, Wisconsin linebacker Jake Chaney was ejected for targeting in the 3rd quarter last week. So he will miss the first half of this game. He's probably Wisconsin's best linebacker. So I think Tackett Curtis, the transfer from USC, will make his first start for the Badgers. He started last year as a true freshman at USC, so it's not unfamiliar territory, but it will be a new piece in the front for Wisconsin as it tries to contend with Alabama's rushing attack.
Okay. We did talk about this game with Luke Fickell months ago. What this means, this opportunity for Wisconsin, and we had Luke on about 5 months ago, but man, Bama was on the mind then. So let's run that now, talking to Luke Fickell about the opportunity with this Alabama game. Speaking of the South, Bama in Madison, baby. It's one of the games of the year. The idea, I can't believe, first of all, the idea that Wisconsin is playing Alabama and USC in September, it makes your head explode. But this idea, Bama has not come north. Yeah, for real. I mean, I'm just excited to watch. You got to coach against them. Bama hasn't come north since they played at Penn State in 2011. Do you believe that you forced Nick Saban into retirement, that he was like, I don't want to play Luke Fickell in Madison?
I'm sure that had a lot to do with, he just hasn't quite said that. He was in Congress the other day. He didn't bring it up, but I'm sure that was in the back of his head of some sorts. It's just crazy. I mean, I think that where we're going, hopefully in college football with 12-team playoff and some of these things, you're going to see more of this, right? You're going to see people that are more apt to say, hey, let's play these games. Let's test ourselves. Let's see where we are. If we don't have to schedule these things so far out, 5, 6, 7 years in advance, I think you're going to see a little bit more of some of these early on games where, the people in the Big Ten, the guys in the Big Ten are going to, match up with some of these SEC teams and not feel like, hey, well, in order to be one of the 4, to lose a game, or to have those struggles early in the year, it's impossible to recover. And I think that's one of the really good things that, where we're headed in college football is I think it allows us to be a little bit more open, test ourselves a little bit more, and find out what we're dealing with, even before the regular season or the league season starts.
And I do love that these are campus games, right? Because like Bama a lot in the past would play these neutral site games and they didn't want to come north for a home and home, but you guys are going to go to Tuscaloosa next year. I think it's so great for fan bases. Like I can't wait for Bama fans to come up and like see what game day is like in Madison. I think that's what makes college football great to me is the differences of like game day atmospheres in different stadiums. I want Bama people jumping around, man. It's going to be awesome.
No, I think that for college football, for all of us, even for our players, right? I mean, you don't always get those opportunities. I thought that was one of the great things about, playing and coaching for so long. You've played in a majority of all the, stadiums in college football, but there's still a bunch because of the nature of not playing these kinds of games, just because of what college football has been and how, I wouldn't say conservative you are about what you're doing, but this is going to give a lot of people, not just the fans, but even our kids, some unique opportunities that not a lot of people have had.
How good was it to see the yellow wall again? Huh? Remember those days?
Yeah.
Remember the yellow wall days?
How far we've come.
People would just come on and be like, I don't care about the content of the show. Get rid of that wall. And now look, we're here. All right. What's your pick? What's your pick for Alabama-Wisconsin 16-point spread?
Yeah, I have Alabama winning 31-17. I just think it's too many big plays, and I don't think Wisconsin is built to keep up. I hope I'm surprised. I hope that Wisconsin does show up with a different offensive mentality and a way of going about its business. But I think what we've seen from Wisconsin through these first 2 weeks offensively is just what Wisconsin is, which is kind of clunky, which is kind of what it was last year. So I don't think there's enough there, and I don't think Alabama will have an easy time, but I think there's enough splash plays to get a comfortable win in Madison.
Yeah, I think it has a chance to be frustrating where for Wisconsin fans where maybe you feel like Wisconsin was in the game, but you'd say, well, then Jalen Milroe did this or Ryan Williams did this. And you still believe Wisconsin has to make big plays. But like, if you're guessing now, who's going to make more? I mean, like might be 6-2 Bama in terms of big plays. And then that's the difference in the game. I'm at 28-16, very similar to you, but even holding Bama to 31-28 is a little bit of a victory, right? We're not saying 66-3. So this is an important spot. They don't have to win, as Luke said. And listen, man, you should if you saw the graphic for the whole, Wisconsin's playing everybody this year, right? I mean, they get Oregon, they get Penn State, they get USC. So like this is a really tough schedule. Wisconsin has a chance to be a pretty darn good team that maybe doesn't have that great of a record. And Luke Fickell knows how tough the schedule is. They've got to compete. This is your showcase. Don't get blown off the field because that's what old Wisconsin would do. They had I can't remember, like they had a game, they might have played Bama, like at a neutral site thing where it's like, okay, well, you're good in your little bubble, but when you go out in the world, you can't compete. They chose to try to break out of the bubble. So now go compete. All right. When we come back, we will have a very special KOTN tailgate report. When I was at the West Virginia Penn State game in week 1, I talked to people in the parking lot. When we get out and see our people, we want to bring that to you. So if you've never been to a West Virginia game, we're going to give you a little tiny taste of that. And then we'll come back with what you watching, what you eating, what you thinking. We'll do all of that next on Kings of the North. Kings of the North, first time in Morgantown, West Virginia for West Virginia Penn State. Let's find out how you tailgate with our KOTN tailgate report from Morgantown. I'm learning about West Virginia. Why do you love West Virginia football?
Look at this. Overalls, coonskin hat. Who couldn't love West Virginia football, man?
Yeah.
I love West Virginia football because it's all about the spirit and mentality of having what it takes to win. And I think we have that this year.
Well, being from Connecticut, the thing I like best about West Virginia football, it's actual football.
Hey, that's a shot at UConn, man.
I love the dedication and the hard work. I think people from West Virginia in general are very hardworking.
You live in the state of West Virginia, you see what they're made of, and you see how they go about their day. And it makes you want to root for them, and that's what you love about the state.
This is my brother right here. I've never met him before.
Right.
I don't know where he's from, but I can tell you this: if he's a West Virginia fan, I'd do anything else to help him out. I'd do anything else if he was down, if he was out. I would always be there to support him.
Same thing for me. He said it best. As a West Virginia fan, you come together just like any fan base, but West Virginia fan, they're closer than much.
But you never met each other before?
Never met for sure.
And I can just tell he's a good guy. Repping the WVU gear.
It's a family, bro. Everything about this, we all die hard for West Virginia, no matter where we come from. If you come from somewhere else, I promise you move to West Virginia, everybody treat you like family. And at the end of the day, I know they out there playing their heart out. I know that for sure. I can't lie to you.
What's the scene like out here in Morgantown on game day?
It's crazy. This is the most packed it's been, in a couple years. So the scene's electric. Everybody's excited. We're getting amped up.
How do you think Penn State will do this year?
I think they'll probably drop a couple games like they typically do, but that's the way we live, and I'm okay with that.
I can tell you're a Penn State fan by that answer.
It is what it is.
How big a deal is West Virginia football to the people here?
Oh, dude, it's huge. It's everything. We were just talking about, whenever football ain't here, everybody's depressed. Now that football is back, we're back,
Yeah, so West Virginia, they don't got any pro sports or nothing. There's only 3 states in the whole nation that when this team carries the entire state.
What do you like about West Virginia football?
Man, so far the atmosphere is amazing. This tailgating scene, see this right here? You don't see this very often around here, so we gotta love it.
Are you a lifelong fan, or are you new to this?
I'm actually new to this. Long story short, I went to Penn State.
Oh, wait, we gotta get rid of him. This guy's a Penn State fan? For real? But you're wearing a West Virginia shirt.
But you gotta rep. You can't come in here and go for the odds. You gotta do what's right.
That's fraud behavior right there, isn't it? Fraud behavior. Fraud behavior.
Okay, the guy's like, no, put me on the show, and I'm a
secondhand embarrassment right now.
He's a secret Penn State fan. We cover Penn State too, but you don't want to get in a fight in the tailgate lot, basically.
You're right. No fights in the tailgate. You're right.
So I'm a student now. I was an Alabama fan.
Oh!
Parents, cousins, all went to Alabama, but Nick Saban left. Program, it's still there. It's going a little downhill.
Yeah, you're a Mountaineer now. I'm a
Mountaineer.
Yeah.
Mountaineers for life, baby.
In conclusion, Morgantown is wild, man. So glad Kings of the North exists, and Kings of the North is here for Penn State, West Virginia in Morgantown. These people get it done with tailgating. That's Doug Lesmerises with the KOTN Tailgate Report. Nick, you want to go to Morgantown?
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Morgantown. I have been to Morgantown. I had a lovely meal one time at a Panda Express in Morgantown.
Oh,
but I've never been there for a football game or a sporting event of any kind.
Very well known for their fast casual Asian cuisine in Morgantown. Right. Yeah. Great people. I had a great time there. Sorry I didn't get it up last week. There was a lot going on. But we want to do that. We have a Cincinnati one also that we'll get to you guys. I want to do that with Wisconsin and Bama fans and just give you a taste of what it's like to be there at the game. All right. What you watching, what you eating, what you thinking, a staple of what we do here. Bill, what you been watching lately?
So last night I realized I didn't have anything for this particular category. So I fired up a movie as I was doing some Alabama-Wisconsin research. And I promise I won't come on every time we do Watch It. I won't I just watched a movie that came out 12 years ago. But that's what I did. I watched a movie that I remember at the time really wanting to see. And in the 10 years since it's been out, people have told me is very good and I should watch it. It's called Edge of Tomorrow. Tom Cruise. Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt.
Are you familiar? Yeah. Just like a really good.
They're robots in it. They're space robots from the future. Is that correct?
Space robots from the future that can control time, and then Tom Cruise ends up being able to control time. And it's actually like the action's really good. It's like a really well thought out story, I think. But I was surprised by how funny it is. Like there's a lot of really good bits of humor in there from Tom Cruise and from other people too. But yeah, I was just like, I was shocked just by how good of a movie it was. Like I thought it was going to be like, it's like an action sci-fi thing. Stuff will blow up. I'll be entertained. But it's like, no, it was a step or two beyond that. It was quite good.
Is it kind of like Groundhog Day if Bill Murray had been punching robots?
It's like Groundhog Day, yeah, if Bill Murray woke up every day and had to end a war against alien robots. Yeah.
Yeah. Very similar. Do you feel like they ripped off Groundhog Day? They said, okay, this is a very pleasant little movie, but what if we made Ned an alien robot instead? Right? Then now you've got something.
Yeah. It's a concept that's been explored before, but I thought this was a nice new spin on it.
Yeah. Okay. I have started to watch. This is a new Netflix show. I think it's called Perfect Couple with Nicole Kidman and Liev Schreiber. And it is part of the new genre of murder on vacation, which I feel like White Lotus got started. And even one of the actresses from White Lotus is now on Perfect Couple. And I don't know if actors just want to go on vacation for their job, or if somebody just thought, what if we just put murder into everything that you do? And somebody was like, what if we had murder at the grocery store? And it's like, I don't know about that. It's like, how about murder on vacation? So murder on vacation, I guess it's always been there, but this is just beautiful people being outrageously rich. I mean, that's the thing. Like you saw the Sydney Sweeney, what's his name? What's the new hot guy's name? Who is in Top Gun Maverick and is in the Twisters? Glenn Powell. The Sydney Sweeney Glenn Powell thing was like they just went to Australia and just went to the house of the richest person you could ever imagine in your life. And that movie would have been helped by a murder. I think they should have thrown that in. A romantic comedy with a little murder on the side. Super, not like going down the shore. Super rich people on super crazy vacation.
Yeah.
Getting murdered. I guess people can't get enough of it.
It seemed, I don't know that I haven't really sampled any of the murder vacation shows yet. I started to watch White Lotus and then just kind of stopped. I feel like that's something I should get back into. But I like watching stuff that even if it's not particularly good is like just kind of like in a cool place. Like, and if the story is not great, I'll just get lost in the scenery of it a little bit, right? So I'm okay with that.
It's weird to me sometimes when like movies just normalize having a $26 million house on the water. It's like, we're just in the $26 million. It's like, okay, I guess I'll just accept it. But like, that's not how most of us do this. So anyway, all right. What do you?
How I do it. I went to dinner on Sunday night with our pal Ari Wasserman and Andy Staples. They were in town doing some stuff at Ohio State, and we went to.
Was not invited. Just to make.
You weren't invited.
I was not invited.
I will say I'll put his business out there. He told me he was going to ask you. So
I'm not here to call people out.
Call him out.
I'm just saying
he deserves it.
I wasn't invited. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, okay, it's fair.
Continue your story.
We went to a pizza place here in Columbus called Paulie G's, which is it's a franchise. I think the original's in New York. Whatever. We had you familiar with like cacio e pepe pasta, like pepper and cheese pasta?
Did not understand what you said. Nope. Never heard of it.
Cacio e pepe.
Nope.
Cheese and pepper. It is like it's like a creamy cheese-based sauce with like black pepper that you put on pasta. These people at Paulie G's, the fine folks Paulie G's, made that into a pizza.
Oh, mama.
No like noodles on the pizza, but like it's a square kind of like Sicilian style pizza where you get like the crispy burnt cheese on the edges, but then you got like a dollop, I think, of like ricotta cheese and then some more cheese there, and then like a cacio kind of sauce with black pepper. So you get the flavor of the cacio e pepe, but with the eating experience of a pizza. And it was quite good. I really enjoyed it. One of the better pies I've had recently.
Nicely done. So you think you could whip that up at home in the Landis household if you needed to make a pie like that?
Yes, I'm bad with like dough. I don't like making my own dough.
Yeah.
So if I can go buy a dough and do it, yeah.
Okay. Can I just be a simple person for a second? I just realized because I did this twice in a row for lunch. It makes me incredibly happy when I'm getting fast food chicken, whether it be, and I'm a boneless wing guy. I'm not here to have a boneless wing conversation. Mm-hmm. You can get your own bones out. Fine. If you're a bone person, fine. I'm not a bone person. But whether I'm getting boneless wings or just chicken tender from somewhere and ordering too many and then having them and having a bag of lettuce in my house and having leftover chicken on a bag of lettuce for lunch. And I stopped at Frickers, which I love Frickers, on the way back from Cincinnati. It's a wing place here in the Midwest, in like Ohio and Indiana and places like that. And I also went to Huey Magoo's, which again is a national chain that is new to our area. And I got extra chicken both times. It's like I get like a 7-piece tender. I can't eat a 7-piece tender. I only want a 4, but now I have tenders for my bag of lettuce, and it brings me great joy to buy a bag of lettuce at the store. It just is it's a simple thing, man. Does everybody do this? I just love it. I love it so much.
No. Heating
up the old chicken on my bag of lettuce makes me feel like a millionaire, man.
Yeah. I like that for you. I have not done that. I don't purchase extra chicken in my travels with the idea of bringing it home and tossing it on some lettuce.
I got a 20-piece at Frickers. I got 20 boneless wings, and they were so good. I almost wanted to eat them all, but I only ate like 13, and then I had 7 left for my lunch. So
of the chunks,
try it out there.
Chunks?
Yeah, the chicken chunks. Yeah,
20 chicken chunks.
Is that a life hack? I mean, if I was really getting after it on YouTube, I'd be like, life hack, everybody, get chicken and put it on lettuce. People, it's not a life hack. It's just living your life. Okay.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about?
I had something and I forgot what it was.
Oh, you were so blown away by my idea to put chicken on lettuce,
and I didn't write it down. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, you got to write. You got to have the app. You got to have the What You Thinking app.
Oh my goodness!
Right here. I'll give you what I'm thinking about.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Experienced on Tuesday night what is my least favorite social media experience, which is sports people opining about politics.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just following you all. I'm following you all because I want your information about your Northern college football teams. And it just continues to drive me crazy when people have a social media account for their job and then they just need to share. And it's like, I really want to stay. I really want to stay. But I promise you, I can get the political analysis a million different places. I don't need it from a college football beat writer. And some people just cannot hold themselves back. And so I may have been driven away. I want your college football information. But when you have a debate on, it is just like, it is hard to escape. People, they just think, and I maybe have been guilty of it in the past. I hope not too much.
Yeah.
Political people tweeting about sports and sports people tweeting about politics. It is not my jam.
No, it's not mine either. I think one is worse, right? Because you're just kind of being a fan. But if you're a political reporter tweeting about sports, it's like I guess you're entitled as a sports fan to tweet about your sports team. But maybe get a second account to do that.
Yeah. So anyway, I know I assume there are other people watching this and listening to this who experienced that as well. So anyway, sorry for everybody who had to go through that. Did you think of your thing yet or no?
No, I'm thinking I need to start writing down my watches.
Yeah.
I write down everything else. Right, I have a 4-page Google Doc in front of me with all the stuff we talked about on the show, but I didn't write down the Whatcha stuff.
That's a good thing. Like, what are you thinking about? Writing down my Whatcha, what I'm thinking about. Yeah. That's your what you're thinking this week. Write it down. All right, that'll do it then. Thanks to Trebor Pena of Syracuse for coming on the show. Thanks to Adam Ritternberg of ESPN.com for coming on the show. I'm glad we did our big game breakdown for Wednesday, but we're going to do another one on Thursday. So Thursday is the pick show. We'll do a big game breakdown on Missouri Boston College, which is like an underrated, awesome, interesting game for this week. And we will break down every other game involving a Northern team and make picks for those. Friday morning, we'll be back. Tyler Shoemaker and I will have our $500 real money best bet. We started with a bankroll of $5,000 for charity. We are up over $6,000 now. We've won more than $1,000 in the first 2 weeks with our real money bets for charity. We'd love to join us there. And then Saturday night, 11 p.m., live post-game show. Landis, you like the post-game show, right?
I love the post-game show. We'll have we're we're going to have a little Coach Sig's UCLA matchup happening as we end the show too. So I'm excited.
Oh yeah. Oh, that'll be good. Kurt Signetti, who said, I don't care if it's the Rose Bowl or a weed-strewn parking lot. You just go play ball, which the Rose Bowl is probably going to send him a letter and say, please acknowledge how great the Rose Bowl is. You're hurting our feelings, right?
Yeah.
So he's probably going to be in trouble. All right. Thanks to our producer, Mike Yorstowski, for making us look good and sound good. Thanks to everybody for being here. Thanks to everybody who's thumbing and subscribing and spreading the word about KOTN. Again, I'll be at Alabama.Wisconsin on Saturday. Excited to do that, but mostly excited to bring you guys this Northern football content Monday through Thursday at noon, live here on YouTube. He's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was Kings of the North.